I am thrilled to now be joined by Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett from Texas. Congresswoman Crockett, always good to see you and to have you on again. This was a year of firsts for so many things. It was the first time we saw a former president indicted, and it was your first year in Congress as a freshman. Just before we even get started, talk to me about everything that you've seen and what are your impressions now as a freshman member having completed your first year?
First of all, Happy New Year to everyone. I can't imagine a better place to be on the last day of this year than on MSNBC. But let me tell you, what I have seen is stuff that's scary to me. And going into 2024, I want everyone to be very serious about who it is that we send to Congress and who it is that is currently sitting in Congress. It's been scary whether or not we're talking about the fraud known as George Santos or whether we're talking about the insurrectionist gang, which, as far as I'm concerned, Speaker MAGA Mike is a part of, or whether we're just talking about the far-right rhetoric that we're getting out of them and the policies that they're attempting to push, or if we just talk about the dysfunction or the clown show that they are in general that has held this country hostage a number of times, whether it was the debt ceiling fight or whether we were dealing with the budget, a budget in which we now are about to hit the crisis mode again on as soon as we get back, because we have two looming deadlines, one of them being right there in January.
Congresswoman, there's always a lot of talk about the Republican Party and a lot of talk about Donald Trump, but Americans want to know what's the plan that Democrats have to move things forward. Let's take Donald Trump off the table. Let's put Republicans to the side. What is the plan that Democrats have to actually get things done in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we know that the Republicans themselves just can't do anything without us. Anything that has passed has only passed because most likely the Democrats have been the one to really carry the water. It is an election year, and I think that that is going to help us be a little bit more productive. I don't know that we'll be a lot more productive, but they know that they've got to go home. And we heard it best from Chip Roy when Chip Roy says that they have nothing to run on. They have not done anything. And so even if we disagree on what the policy outcomes specifically are, I think that it's better to at least go home and say that you've accomplished something. And so I think that they will feel that pressure, especially those that are sitting in Biden districts. They will put pressure on their conference to say, hey, if you want us to come back, if you want a chance at holding this majority, then we're going to have to start to get down to work and get to business and ignore the Lauren Boeberts of the world, the Matt Gaetz and the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Paul Gosars, and actually do something productive.
Now, one of your viral moments this year came from the House Impeachment Inquiry Committee and that subcommittee in its hearing, where you then brought up the notion of hard evidence and where that hard evidence was being stored at Mar-a-Lago. What's next for that committee, and what do the American people have to look forward to, or what has to happen in order to stop this charade of an evidence-empty impeachment inquiry against President Joe Biden?
I think that we're going to focus on trying to redirect the attention of the American people. You know, there are those that don't understand what you are supposed to use an impeachment for or an impeachment inquiry. And so it is important that we are good messengers and that we make sure that people better understand that this isn't what we're supposed to be doing in this committee. And if we were going to go after something, then there are things that we can go after. They just don't happen to involve the current president, but a lot of things involving the previous president. And I know that some believe that just because he went through 2 impeachments, that everything came out. Let me tell you, there's still so much more that can come out and that is coming out. And so I think that we are going to try to juxtapose the difference between a Trump and a Biden, when right now we know that the Republicans want to make it seem as if it's more of the same, and it is not. The two presidents have nothing in common except for the fact that they were both sworn in as presidents of this United States.
We've had a lot of D9 talk today, and there's nothing better than when a Q gets to talk to a Delta. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Democrat of Texas, thank you so much for joining me this morning, and Happy New Year.